And welcome back to another crossover edition of Locked On Chiefs. And I am joined by Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. Joe, how are you doing?
Doing well, Chris. Thanks for collaborating here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Very much looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be a great conversation getting into these two teams. But we want to thank you for making Locked On Chiefs and Locked On Bills your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. All right, Joe. So let's just dive into it right now. Right now, your Bills are 3-1, and obviously, Week 1 was a little rough, but you guys have won three straight games. What have you seen, and are there any key injuries coming into this Chiefs game?
Yeah, week one already feels like a long time ago, but it's still
Doesn't it?
confusing. A lot of expectations for this Bills football team. Josh Allen signed the big contract, which I know Chiefs fans can relate to, that big
Mhm.
time quarterback deal. And it felt like the expectations for the team, the expectations for Josh Allen led to them laying an egg against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that came in with a great defensive game plan and did well to affect Josh Allen with rushing 3 and 4 rushers. They played a lot of coverage and really shut down the offense. And then the Bills really bounced back and have played good football. 2 shutouts the last 3 weeks, shutting out Houston and Miami, really played their best game offensively against Washington. And I know that the quality of opponent hasn't been there, but you do have to be mindful of just how well the Bills played in those games and how decisive they were. And so I definitely would understand anyone saying, well, look, the Bills haven't really beat anyone yet. But I think you have to look at the bigger picture and understand that this is a team that was 13-3 last year. They won 2 playoff games. They were in the AFC Championship game. It's not just about this year. It's a lot of the exact same team that returns. They brought back 20 of 21 starters. The only one that they didn't bring back was John Brown, who they cut and they feel like they upgraded with Emmanuel Sanders. And so this is a team that is 16-4 over the last 20 regular season games. And a lot of those games have not been close. Now, the team that they have struggled with is Kansas City. We'll get to that. But to this point, you saw the Bills lay an egg in week one and then really handle their business the next few weeks. And they enter this game with a lot of confidence. Now, you mentioned injuries and anything that we should be mindful of. The big one is Matt Milano, who did not finish the Houston game. He had a hamstring injury. The Bills are very cautious when it comes to hamstring injuries. I don't feel good about him playing, and he's a key player that wasn't available last time these two teams met in the regular season, and he hobbled his way through the AFC Championship game. But he's that guy that is the space linebacker that matches up with tight ends, that matches up with running backs out of the backfield. And so if he's unable to go, that's going to be a big hit for this Bills defense. Also, first-round pick Gregory Rousseau, who's off to a strong start. He didn't practice early this week with a toe injury. So those are the two big injuries to monitor as we approach game day.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up Week 1 because Week 1 really sticks out to me. I watched that Bills game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it just looked like they were flat for a lot of it. And I wonder, and I have been saying this, to anybody that will talk about Week 1. I don't like the teams that really took most of their starters out for most of the preseason. Like, I think that you need to get into a groove. You need to get some plays. You need to get into being able to do those types of repetitions and play in a game because I don't think you can simulate that in practice. And it looked like that really hurt the Bills, at least in my opinion, in week one. Now, when you start looking at Matt Milano not playing, that's a huge problem with Travis Kelce. That's going to be an issue. And you look at this Chiefs team at 2-2. I never would have thought that they would be 2-2 at this point. Am I happy that they're 2-2? No. Am I surprised? Yes. Do I think that they deserve to probably win either of those games that they lost? No, not with the way they played. You can't turn the ball over in the NFL and win games, and that's exactly what Kansas City did. So that's going to be a big key going into this game is Kansas City keep the ball and not turn it over because if they don't turn the ball over, I think they have a better chance of winning, obviously, any game, but definitely against this Bills unit.
Yeah, it's been interesting. The Bills, I think, lead the NFL in takeaways. They've been very aggressive attacking the football. Now, look, I know we're talking about intercepting Davis Mills and Jacoby Brissett and Taylor Heineke. Like, I definitely get that. But I think from a Bills perspective, you do like that they have that confidence, that they're hunting the
Hmm.
football, and that, while they have not been tested this year, they're coming into this game with a lot of confidence. And so I think that is kind of the silver lining when you consider the opponents and the success that the Bills have had. They're not just playing well. They've really dominated when it comes to defense and taking away the football.
Yeah, they're the only team in the NFL that has two shutouts so far this season. Now, you already mentioned this that quality of opponent isn't the best, but that's still pretty impressive in the NFL is to have two shutouts, regardless of who you're playing, because this is not a league where you normally get that kind of thing. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and when we get back, Joe's going to ask me questions about this Chiefs team. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30 to 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy to use website today and find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
Joe Marino of Locked On Bills, joined by Chris Clark of Locked On Chiefs. And Chris, I want to start our conversation here in terms of me asking you questions by, of course, talking about Patrick Mahomes and what you're seeing out of him so far this year. It looks like he's off to a terrific start, but I really couldn't help but be surprised when I noticed how much quicker he's getting the ball out of his hands this year and the success he's having in the quick game, but the extended plays haven't quite been there so far this year like they have in the past. So how has he evolved in 2021, and are you seeing any differences in the way he's playing?
I think you see differences in the way he's playing, and I think it's because that's what defenses are giving him. They're giving him a lot of two deep safety looks, and generally speaking, when you play that type of coverage, you're not going to have a lot of shots downfield. And most teams that Kansas City's played are going to play two deep safeties, and they're going to say, "Okay, beat us underneath." We don't think you could take the ball down the field and beat us that way. And fortunately for Kansas City, they don't really seem to have a problem with that. The real problem has been keeping a hold of the ball. Mahomes has too many interceptions this year for as many games as they played, and they put the ball on the ground a couple of times with fumbles as well, and that really hurt them specifically in that Chargers game where they had 3 turnovers on 3 straight drives. You just cannot win games if you're going to turn the ball over that much and expect to have a chance to win. And somehow their defense played well in that game and actually held a Chargers offense that I think is very good to one of its lowest scoring totals of the season. But what you are seeing for Patrick is he's taking a lot more of what they have given him so far this year. And I think part of the reason that he's getting the ball out so quick is because he's seeing as soon as the ball is snapped, they're staying back with their two safety looks. So he's just going, okay, well, if they're going to stay back with two safeties, I'm going to go to this guy, and I already know he's going to be open.
Yeah, I think that's been something impressive about the Kansas City offense, year after year, is that they're willing to adapt their style of play. And we saw that in week 6 last year where the Bills said, "Hey, run the ball. Run the ball all you want." And Kansas City said, "Yeah, okay, sounds good. We'll run the football and we'll still score a ton of points and make it tough to beat us." So they're definitely an offense that's willing to adapt. Now, this offense has Tyreek Hill, it has Travis Kelce, but the depth of the offense's weapons is lacking, in my opinion. And so we have Josh Gordon potentially in the mix. So I'm interested, what type of impact do you expect from Josh Gordon this week? And, do you feel like I'm on point here with this team lacking offensive weapons? When I look at the target distribution, I mean, I think it's Tyreek Hill has 38 targets, Travis Kelce has 32, it's Hardman with 17, and nobody else has more than 10. So your thoughts on the weapons and how Josh Gordon can factor in this weekend?
I think Josh Gordon could be a huge factor in this game. I'm not going to say that he's going to play a ton. He could play only 10 to 15 snaps, but those 10 to 15 snaps, he could make himself known just because he is a freak of a talent. And I guess I hate using that terminology, but that's really the way it is he is fast, he's huge. And as long as he still has his skill set, which it sounds like he does, I think he can make a big splash in this game if he is active. The question is he going to be active? Right now, we don't know. He's on the active roster, so you would think he's going to be. I do agree with you, though. They have a question mark at offensive weapons. I think what you're seeing, though, is you have Tyreek Hill, you have Travis Kelce, you have those guys that are going to get theirs. and Josh Gordon is going to add to that. And then you have McCole Hardman on top of that. Well, you also have a guy in Byron Pringle who's kind of slowly stepping ahead. Demarcus Robinson hasn't done much this year, but they really like Noah Gray, who they drafted this year, I believe, in the 5th round from Duke, and they really like him as a tight end. He just hasn't been able to crack the lineup so far. And I think a lot of that is going to be changing throughout the season. I don't know that he'll have a big factor in this game, but if they see the Bills again in the playoffs, I do think he will have a bigger impact on the game.
Yeah, I like Noah Gray. Scouted him at Duke several times, and think about a flex tight end with really, really good hands, and he runs good routes, converted at quarterback. So I think he's got a lot of untapped potential.
Well,
I'm anxious to see how he develops.
and you're looking at the Chiefs playing a lot of 13 personnel, which is kind of new for them. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if they'll end up going to a 4 tight end set at some point because they usually have all 4 tight ends active.
Yeah, well, might as well use them. And so, as we shift gears to the defensive side of the football, Chris, what's going on here? Top 10 in
Do we
scoring.
have to?
No, well, no, we need to, because Bills fans need to know from you. I tried my best to break it down on our Wednesday podcast,
Yep.
but this is a defense that was top 10 in scoring each of the last 2 seasons, but the struggles have been there. So my question is it just underachieving, or is there a talent issue here?
I think it's a combo of both. I think what you're looking at is there's a lot of teams that are really abusing the Chiefs linebackers, the lack of speed that they have, the lack of ability to cover in the flats and in the middle of the field at times. And then you're also looking at the corner group, and Shavarius Ward is hated on by a lot of people in Kansas City because they don't think he's a good enough corner. I think they're missing his physicality lately and his aggressiveness because he's been out the past 2 weeks. I'm hoping he comes back this week. They're missing Frank Clark on the edge. Chris Jones has got an injury to his wrist, so he's not helping near as much as you would hope. And at that point, you're sitting there, you missed Tyrann Mathieu week 1, and I expected the defense to take a big step ahead against Baltimore, and they didn't. Because with Tyrann Mathieu coming back, you would think that they would be, back to basically the shell of what they were last year, because the defensive players really haven't changed much. Willie Gay is now been designated to return from IR, so it's possible he plays this week. If he does, that could really change what they're doing on defense because he actually brings the speed to cover players in the flat, to cover the tight ends, to cover the running backs, those types of routes. He has the ability and the sideline to sideline quickness that you want that this Chiefs defense just is completely lacking right now.
Chris, the last thing I have for you, and I would love for you to just be brutally honest with me. What is the Chiefs' perspective of this Bills team? Buffalo's been really good against literally every other team that they've played over the last, season and a quarter now, except for Kansas City. And there's been plenty of
Mm-hmm.
high stakes games. So do you cling to those 2 games last year where, Kansas City handled their business against Buffalo? Or is there some type of belief that there's a chance Buffalo has closed this gap? Is it a situation where, yeah, look, we see what's going on. You got a nice quarterback. The defense is playing good. You a lot of continuity. But until you beat us, we don't really take you that seriously.
I'm not going to say they're not going to take them seriously. I do think that they are. I do think that this team realizes that they dug themselves a hole by losing 2 games already. So I can't imagine that they're going to be looking at this game and thinking that they can get out of being 100% prepared and just ready to go against a very good Bills team. What I will say, though, is the one spot that is by far the most important in the NFL is going to be the QB spot. And Kansas City has had Josh Allen's number at times over the past couple of seasons. Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, is still a better quarterback than Josh Allen, and that's not a huge slight at Josh Allen. I just think it's reality. I think he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he's on the same level as Mahomes yet. I think he could get closer the way he continues to play, but so I think that's helped Kansas City in the past. Now the question going into this game is Kansas City falling back on defense enough to where the Bills are going to take advantage like they haven't in the past? And is Kansas City's offense going to be able to put up enough points against a very good Bills defense to help them win this game? And there are a lot of bets that are going to be placed on this game. I guarantee it because it is going to be one of the marquee matchups of this weekend. We're back and better than ever. All game eyes are on the gridirons. Teams are back on it for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget our promo code Locked On to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Joe. So let's go ahead and jump in here because this is where the rubber meets the road for Kansas City. They absolutely have to have this game and they have to be ready for it. When you look at this Bills unit and you look at what happened in week one compared to how they played the past couple of weeks, and you kind of already addressed they've played, a better or a worse competition the past 3 weeks than they played week one. What have you seen as a progression from Josh Allen so far this season compared to where he was last year?
Well, I think the last couple of games was in line with the Josh Allen that we watched in 2020. The Pittsburgh Steelers really had a great game plan, and I
Mhm.
thought Josh was pressing in that game a little bit, and you could tell he was chasing some big plays and didn't play smart in my mind. And then you saw it start to get better against Miami in the last 2 weeks. I think has very much been the Josh Allen that everybody saw last year that was number 2 in the NFL MVP voting. And so he's playing with a lot more confidence. Getting the chemistry down with Emmanuel Sanders was a big deal. I thought the first 2 games they were just off. The last 2 games they were not. He's been very, very productive. And so it's been just a matter of Josh settling in and I think getting some games under his belt, getting some reps under his belt, and being able to start meeting those expectations and getting into rhythm a little bit sooner in games. Those types of things have really contributed to Josh Allen, righting the ship, if you will. I mean, it's a small lull, right? I mean, it's a long
Mhm.
season. Every single game's not, 350 yards and 4 touchdowns and another rushing touchdown, right? Like the Chiefs have a great quarterback and Pat Mahomes, and it's not that way every single game. And so I think it was kind of working through that. And Josh is, I think, in the right spot entering this game. Now we'll see how he meets the moment. I feel like both games against Kansas City last year, everybody understood it was high stakes, and I thought Josh pressed and didn't play loose and wasn't himself. And so we'll see going on the road in front of a national audience, prime time, right? Hostile environment.
Right.
Josh said it today in his press conference. He said it's the most hostile environment he's ever been in, and it's allowed all game long. And so credit to the Chiefs fans and the environment that they create. It's a big moment for Josh and this team to go meet. And I will say you like that he's playing a lot better over the last couple of games, and should have a lot of confidence entering this contest against a Chiefs defense that still has a lot to prove this year. They got to right the ship. And so it's a nice little struggle of how things are going to meet here and see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and the defense definitely needs to right the ship for Kansas City. I will agree with you on that. The one thing I will say, when you look at Josh Allen and the way he's played against Kansas City, he has struggled the past couple of times. Do you think that the entire organization, down to Josh Allen even, are looking at this as almost like their own Super Bowl, or do you think they're looking and saying that this is just another game in the regular season? Because if you beat Kansas City here, you have advantages in the playoffs, and that also gives you advantage if you meet them again in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're going to tell you that it's the next game on the schedule. They're going to give you all of that messaging, but
Mhm.
internally, we know. I mean, you've probably seen the picture of Stephon Diggs standing there with his hands on his helmet, watching
Mhm.
the Chiefs, have their trophy ceremony and go to the Super Bowl last year. Yeah, they lost to this team twice. I mean, they've lost a total of 5 games over the last 2 seasons, and 2 of them were to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, let's be honest about what this is. And we're talking about a Chiefs team that has 2 losses, and I'm pretty sure that's about what everybody thought they would have for the year. It's week 5. You get a chance to give Kansas City a third loss. You have a chance to claim the tiebreaker in a head-to-head win and force Kansas City to come to Buffalo and play at your place. That's a big deal, and not just to have them come to your place, but to not have to go to Kansas City. So while Sean McDermott and Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are going to tell you that it's the next game on the schedule and that they try to win every week, nah, there's a lot more to this one. And I even hosting Locked On Bills, I spent a lot of time this offseason talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, not the Patriots, the Jets, and the Dolphins. It's the Chiefs. And so here it is. Go do it and see if you can, really change the script in the AFC, right? That's what they're chasing. You heard Brandon Beane talk about specifically they couldn't affect Patrick Mahomes enough with their pass rush during the 2 matchups that they had. You saw them go out and be very deliberate about trying to help the pass rush, investing their top 2 picks on pass rushers, strengthening the depth of the pass rush rotation with Efe Obada and free agency, allowing Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison to be, more fresh to play on money downs. Like, this has been a concerted effort to compete better with Kansas City. And here it is, right? This is the stage. Let's see what happens.
And I'm glad you bring that up because that was another place I was going to go with this is Kansas City. And we didn't talk about this when you were asking me questions. Kansas City basically went out and changed their complete offensive line last in this past offseason, and it was a huge change. You're going into this, you weren't able to get to Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. You weren't able to get to Mahomes in the first game. Now you're in a situation where you're going up against a better offensive line, in my opinion, than what they had at any point last year, at least with the way they're playing right now. How are you feeling about this Bills team to be able to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes this weekend?
Well, first of all, how about Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, a couple of rookies in the middle of that offensive line? Those guys are playing well. Joe Tooney, one of the best guards in the game. Orlando Brown at left tackle. Lucas Nang coming in and playing really well at right tackle once he healed up from injuries. And I liked him a ton coming out of TCU. So it was really interesting to see them completely reset the deck with this offensive line. But, man, so far so good. And so credit to, everybody that's making the decisions there in Kansas City, because this really looks like it's going to play out with some really high quality long-term answers. So yeah, you gotta respect the hell out of what happened there. Now, as far as this Bills pass rush, it's critical, right? I mean, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, like every single quarterback, pressuring them matters. And in fact, when he's pressured versus not pressured, his completion percentage goes down 37 points and his passer rating goes down 46 points. That's not a unique stat to Patrick Mahomes. That's every quarterback in the world, right? They struggle when they're pressured. So you got to figure out ways to pressure him. But the interesting thing about Mahomes is you better pressure him with 4, because if you blitz him, he's going to kill you. Everybody knows that, right? I mean, the Bills blitzed him one time in week 6 last year in 34 dropbacks, 8 times in 39 dropbacks in the AFC Championship game. And I'm guessing a lot of that was more out of desperation than anything. They needed to, kind of stay in the game and try to be aggressive. But everybody knows you can't blitz Mahomes, and you have to get organic pressure. Well, I mean, the Bills are rostering 11 defensive linemen. They have this rotation. They have a lot of young players. They've rushed the passer a lot better this year. And, this is the test. I don't know that I have an answer for you in terms of, will they go do it? I can tell you that they've certainly done everything they can to try to build a formidable pass rush group, interior and on the outside, with a lot of depth and a lot of fresh bodies and a lot of rotation for this moment. And so we'll see if they can go out there and affect Patrick Mahomes a lot better than they have in the past. And, they're going to need that, because you're looking for ways to make him less effective. Well, you better get some heat on him.
Yeah, and you're right. You better get it on with 4, because if you get it with 5, he will beat you on a usually a pretty regular basis. He's really good against blitz. Now, when you look at the back end of this Bills unit, they're going to be going up against Tyreek Hill. They could be going up against Josh Gordon. But obviously, Travis Kelce is going to play a key role in this game as well. How do you think that they attack this Chiefs offense? Because when you look at what Tyreek Hill was able to do last week, he didn't have great games the first 3 weeks, and then he goes off against the Eagles for what could have been close to 4 touchdowns. He was just a yard short of getting another touchdown. So what do you think that they're going to do to try to stop those 2 guys?
Well, nobody stops Hill and Kelce, right? Like, I think that's the first thing we have to do. We have to manage our expectations, right? Expectations minus reality equals disappointment. If you think you're stopping Hill and Kelce, you're lying to yourself. Nobody stopped them in 3, 4, 5 years, right? I mean, these guys are insane football players. And so your objective is to try to contain and limit them, right? They're going to make plays. Like, you have to understand that. And you just have to play the next down. And so if I had 4 keys to share with you, I think in terms of what the Bills defense can do to try is, number 1, the pass rush needs to show up, right? Disciplined pass rush. And you've done all this to create pass rush to stop or at least affect Mahomes. So that needs to show up. You need to flood the passing lanes with zone coverage, right? You need to drop 7, don't blitz. And I think that's where you lean on the continuity of your back 7. I mean, these guys have been together since 2017, except for a couple guys since 2018, the same coaching, right? I mean, everything there. They've never seen, there's not a route combination they haven't seen, right? They know how to play off each other. They know how to space coverage, squeeze lanes, all that type of stuff. And so that needs to be something that shows up in this football game. You have to tackle, right? We know that the Chiefs are really good in terms of yards after catch. Patrick Mahomes is enjoying 6 yards after the catch per completion, which is 8th most in the NFL. So you got to tackle, not give them anything extra. And then it's money downs in red zone. The Chiefs are insane right now on 3rd down. I think over 60% converting 3rd downs. They're insane in the red zone, scoring, I think, touchdowns on 80% of their visits. And On the other side, the Bills defensively have been really good in those situations, holding opponents to a touchdown rate in the red zone around 30%. Same thing on third downs around 30%. Again, we talk a lot about the quality of opponent, but you have a situation of strength on strength, at least through what we've seen through 4 games. And so that's the stuff that needs to show up. You need to, when the Chiefs get their big plays and they get down the field, you have to somehow try to get them to kick the field goal and not score 6. And so, easier said than done, right? I mean, I could sit here and paint this picture for you all day long, but when the ball snapped, you have to be able to execute. And there's nothing small about the challenge that the Bills defense has on Sunday.
No, I agree with you completely. I do think that that's going to be a key in going into this game. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun game. Sunday Night Football is always fun. Against this Bills team, I guarantee Arrowhead is going to be very, very loud. So good luck on that one. Joe, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed it, Chris. Thank you.
All right. And thank you all for listening. And we will be back to talk to you more tomorrow with our predictions.